So I just wanted to make a different type of video. I'm always interested whenever it comes to games of figuring out what people enjoy, what they like, and just in general, where the gaming market truly is. When you look across Steam, you look across the browser store, like if we was to look, for instance, at the games coming soon on Xbox specifically, obviously a big one's going to be Doom. It's not necessarily out every year, but it's always an interesting one. We do have that on the Game Pass coming out for the Xbox, and more than likely we'll have plenty of deals as you do go through the franchise of it. We then have Everspace, we have Cybercore, loads of almost not necessarily indie game. Well, I mean, I suppose they are necessarily indie games, but really kind of the next big game past that, really then, of the modern era is going to be like the sports games of F1. You've got obviously Elden Ring, and as you do continue, you then see a few different games. You've got a Tour de France if you wanted to go for something different. You've got I suppose this one's kind of different. The Alters. It is slightly different, but not necessarily the craziest amount in terms of price, which is always nice. Rematch is kind of your new FIFA sort of game. You then have Star Overdrive. You have the College Football Edition with the MVP for Madden and also College Football. Tony Hawk's Pro Skate is obviously getting a lovely remake, which is always fantastic. And then as you go forward, you can kind of see we've got a few others kind of poking their head with Metal Gear Solid and Hell is Us. But the big question is games just slightly dying out? Like, even when you look at the Steam charts in general, it is just full of kind of the same games, kind of week in, week out, really. You've obviously got your Counter-Strikes, that's absolutely massive, as you can imagine. PUBG, Dota, Apex, you got your Delta Force, Rust, GTA as standard, Monster Wilds, I suppose, that came out this year. Marvel Rivals is probably one of the more recent games that has come out that has kind of taken by storm. Stardew Valley, I know for the Nintendo, I think you're playing everything, in fact, is obviously quite a big game in general. Baldur's Gate, Football Manager, the standard. So the big question is really with these is, I don't see any mega games. I don't see the kind of next huge franchise that just forms. Kind of growing up of the era of all of the CODs, the Gears of War, Bully, you've thrown up the GTA franchise, really, kind of coming through all of them. We've then thrown in Halo, even just a simple game like Army of Two was just a secondary sort of game on the 360. All of the best creeds, obviously Need for Speed, the start of Forza, Gran Turismo, the game list just went on like a crazy amount, whereas now, as much as I most definitely play a lot of different games, it's not as regular. It seems to be now kind of like for instance, I do mainly FIFA content. If you've probably known that from the main channel, then obviously that's the big side. So I play that the most as such. We obviously have Doom pre-downloaded. I try out The Expedition. I try out a bit of Oblivion. Oblivion wasn't my thing, haven't really done too much. I have Rocket League as a chill game, but I remember back in the day having all of these, Halo, Gears, and I'd necessarily not playing them all consistently, but I definitely cycled through a lot of them. Crackdown, Saints Row, even Battlefield seem to have kind of been mixing against the COD, but now it just doesn't seem to ever be that way. Throwing in even Tony Hawk and Burnout, there is so much nostalgic games, and I wonder is that it? Is that the problem with games now, is they don't have the nostalgic factor? Because most games like that is the kind of point. You do have that kind of drawback. We got a new Test Drive this year, which it wasn't necessarily the biggest popular game in my eyes. I thought it had its its audience, but it never was beating Need for Speed or Gran Turismo every year. It was most definitely just a standard game more than anything, and I must admit the second one just didn't really feel the same. Dirt was always a fantastic game, and as you can see with obviously the Doom franchise, we go further down into FC and FIFAs, they're all standard. Like in general, when I can imagine it comes to sports games, they have just evolved with the times. They may have added a few things that you liked and disliked, but generically they are kind of the same. PES is totally different now, changing into eFootball. I don't even know what it actually is anymore. Obviously you've got the likes of Skyrim. it weren't my sort of game, so I never really gave it a massive go. So I kind of miss out on that other side of games that probably a lot of people really emulate with the Dark Souls, the Elden Ring. That was not never really my sort of thing, so I never really bothered with that. I was kind of more your sports, more of your adventure games, rather than necessarily a RPG, I'm assuming, it wasn't an MMO. But, well, I mean, could it be? I don't think so. But it was like RuneScape was kind of my sort of freedom game, but sports was definitely the biggest factor. Fable, I know that is coming out hopefully at the end of this year. It will be again another nostalgia game that will do very well on sales. Whether it does very well on the game is a big question. Fallout, again, wasn't my sort of style, but I knew how big that was. The first few Far Cry's I kind of liked in general. We throw in, obviously, more FIFAs. Fight Night was incredible. Obviously, that was a huge one. Then you throw in the Forzas as standard. Like we said with Gears, I don't even know if I've done Gears 5, to be honest. That's probably one that I haven't actually played. It came out during an era where I was pretty much just locked into to FIFA, so it was kind of, it escaped me a little bit, but Gears of War was kind of like the grow-up game, really, if anything. Then obviously you've got your GTAs as standard. Grid was always good a little bit later, but Grid was great. Loved Halo Wars. That was obviously quite a big one as we grew up. Then you've kind of, and this is the problem, like when I look at it and I've kind of tried these games of the Immortals, and they weren't awful. Like it wasn't necessarily like it was totally rubbish. It just didn't really have much excitement into it. So it is always interesting to see what other people think, because obviously I was a very specific type of gamer. I've tried a lot and most definitely did quite a decent amount of gaming, but there was still elements that I didn't really do. I didn't really play Mass Effect, whereas I played Medal of Honor. That was kind of prior to COD really coming out at that point. Then if you kind of go a bit further down, I must admit I did love Mirror's Edge. That was obviously the new free running-esque sort of game. Then obviously you had your WWEs. That was always a standard. WWE SmackDown versus Raw, Need for Speed. Surprised they haven't brought any more Need for Speeds out, but hopefully they will do soon. But this is kind of the point of the gaming market of where are we going with it? I obviously didn't play Path of Exile 1. I definitely gave 2 a go, but again, it's very difficult to kind of get your head around when I'm not really played it too much. Tiger Woods, absolutely every year. Perfect Dark Zero, I had that in the classic game, which was just, it was incredible. It's like the James Bond sort of era. And as you can imagine, you go further down, you'll find more gems like Skate. Sims was always incredible, obviously. Sims 1, 2, 3, and all the way up to 4. Then as we further down, Star Wars was always massive, which then, a little bit of time for, when did that come out? 2014, so yeah, it would have been the perfect time. Even, yes, Tom Clancy. Obviously, Rainbow Six Vegas was always a massive one. So it is, and Trials. Trials was kind of like the pre-Rocket League, if you've never played it. It was that sort of game. It was chill. You obviously had people that played it crazily, but it was very, very chill. Just play and kind of just have fun with it. You didn't really need to go too crazy. But this is my problem now, is where do games go from this? Do we ever see anything more crazy than what we have had in the past, or is it just one game to the next? Because it seems that we're not getting games that are going to compete with each other. It's pretty much they take the reign, they take the reign, they take the reign. Like we said with obviously the ones that are coming out soon, it is predominantly going to be wrong game. It's predominantly going to be one game, and then I'll kind of shut that down for like a week or two. Then I'll go on the next one, and I'll just keep revolving around that. And I must admit that is great if you can afford it. But when you think about it, other than the Game Pass, which I think is a great addition to have, still can be quite expensive. Like, I mean, if you're gonna buy Game Pass games as well as then games, it's not cheap. Like, you're spending what, £10 to £15 a month on the Game Pass. So I do get Doom for free as such if I'm paying the Game Pass. But then if I think, okay, well, I'm not necessarily going to play too many of these, but I do need to get F1. If I've got to do it for content, I need the earliest edition. Obviously, that's going to be 76. Then if you're throwing in an Elden Ring, if you wanted to try that out, if again you wanted to go for each edition, you're looking at 130, 140. Say you didn't want the Game Pass, say you want to own it, you're looking at again probably like 60, yeah, £70. You're looking at almost 300, well, about 250 for the games that are out in that same month. Like, we've got quite literally a game coming out the 15th of May. Then you've got it on the 27th of May and then the 30th of May. Throw in then you maybe want to try the Altars. Again, it's nice that it's in the Game Pass, but say you want to try Mind's Eye instead as well. That's another 55. You want to maybe go a bit of Tour de France. I know you're not going to go for every single one, obviously. But if you did want to try out quite a lot, then you throw in a rematch. You throw in the big bundle for the College Football and Madden, which does make sense, but you've got to buy it then. That's 126. It's crazy. Now, I do like I said, the Game Pass is going to be fantastic for a lot of these games. It seems to be that quite a lot is coming on the Game Pass, which is why I would highly recommend. I just think when you're trying out to do a lot of these games, it's why you kind of just going for 1 or 2 games and that's it. Maybe you go for an MVP bundle, because I must admit, it's decent. You get a bit of college football. You obviously get yourselves the Madden as well. If you're going to buy both, this makes sense, especially if you do have the discount on it as well. Rematch at least is quite cheap, cheap enough. You can obviously go for the £20 edition. Obviously, the other one is 27, but it's on the 16th instead. It's kind of where the early access really kills the games. But in general, it is just interesting to see where the gaming mechanics are going and just what we're actually getting for the money. I've played countless of story games at the moment over the past year and a bit, and not one has really been that incredible. Now, obviously, there's a few that I haven't played that probably are much better than what I kind of have tried. But when I think of what I've actually bought, if we look at Dragon Age, I didn't really like. Dragon's Dogma, I kind of liked. I just think it's not necessarily my style. It was okay at the minimum. We then have Hogwarts. Obviously, that was a couple years ago. I really enjoyed that one. Big Harry Potter fan. Monster Wilds, again, wasn't my thing. Path of Exile, couldn't really work it out massively, and that goes down to me more so than the game itself. Like I said with Test Drive, even a car racing game, it's one that I'm absolutely craving. I need a Forza. I need a Need for Speed. It just wasn't that imaginative. It was pretty much just do all of the races and at a very slow pace, and that's it. Now, I get it. That's kind of the point. Need for Speed is more of your almost storyline into races. Forza's kind of your open world, but that was the problem. The open world side of it was rubbish, realistically. To say that this game was been in the works for years, it was rubbish, and that's kind of the problem with it. But it's the interesting part with games of where we're going with it. Same with Assassin's Creed. You can obviously do the Ubisoft Plus, so you can pretty much get any version of it for the £12 a month, whatever it is. So you could do 1 month, give it a go, take it away. It was boring. It quite literally was very boring to play. There was nothing too imaginative with it, and I don't know if that's the fact that we're on like Assassin's Creed 12. It needs something new. We've had 1, 2, 3, Mirage, Odyssey, Origins, the collection, Valhalla, Shadows, Rogue. We need something new from these franchises in general. I know Ubisoft not necessarily the greatest at the moment, but it definitely could do with a complete overhaul. I think Star Wars was a little bit pants. Even EA games, FC25, it's not necessarily been the greatest game for the hardcore players. UFC, we're still waiting on a new one at some point. And then I can't really speak for your NHLs and your Maddens in the great details, but again, it seems to be very standard when it comes to it. But I'm just interested to get your opinions on these. What gaming state do you find? Are you playing a specific game? Is it just at this point where we've just got to wait out? I know everybody was kind of hoping for GTA 6. We obviously got that news that it's coming out May next year. At least we have some sort of date if it doesn't get pushed back, but that does seem like a long time away, and hopefully we do get games in the meantime. I know Switch 2 is coming out, which should shake up a little bit of time, but again, whether it does or not, you're looking at £60-70 a game even for that, and then let alone if you wanted to actually get the Switch 2, you're looking at another £400-500. In this day and age, is it even affordable? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all for the next one. Peace.